overturn our assumptions about the way the universe works. On their head, the government of Yemen says the country's president, absent for months after surviving an assassination attempt, is now back. Could his return spark more violence? And Paul McCartney writes his first ballet. We'll find out if our arts correspondent thinks it's any good. First, the headlines.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. The president of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, has flown back to the country more than 3 months after surviving an assassination attempt. Correspondents say it's a surprise move that's likely to lead to more violence in the capital Sana'a, where about 100 people have died in clashes this week. Reports from Sana'a say that shelling and gunfire continued overnight and into this morning. Amnesty International has published horrific details of how the mother of a young Syrian activist found the mutilated body of her daughter in a mortuary in the city of Homs. According to the human rights group, the mother of 18-year-old Zainab al-Hosni went there last week to identify the body of her son. Pakistan's foreign minister has warned the United States that it risks losing Pakistan as an ally if it continues to accuse Islamabad of supporting militants. Minister Hina Rabbani Khan was responding to comments by America's most senior military officer, who said the militant Haqqani network was an arm of Pakistan's intelligence service. The former president of Afghanistan, Burhanuddin Rabbani, who was killed on Tuesday by a suicide bomber, has been buried amid tight security in the capital, Kabul. The former head of the International Monetary Fund, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, is to come face-to-face before prosecutors with a French writer who's accused him of attempting to rape her. Mr. Strauss-Kahn admits making, as he put it, an advance on the writer, Tristan Banon, but denies any use of violence and has sued her for slander. A NASA satellite the size of a bus is due to break up and crash down to Earth in the coming hours. The American Space Agency says 26 large chunks will land across a path of about 800 kilometers, and that they're likely to hurtle down anywhere on Earth apart from North America. NASA calculates there's about a 1 in 3,000 chance of anyone being hit. BBC News.
You're listening to the BBC World Service. This is World Update. I'm Dan Damon. Surprising his enemies and delighting his supporters, Yemen's President Ali Abdullah Saleh is reported to have returned home after more than 3 months of medical treatment in Saudi Arabia. The danger is that his reappearance will further inflame the battles between forces loyal to him and his opponents, and there have been more deaths in the past 48 hours. I've been speaking to an opposition activist in Yemen, and I asked first for her reaction to the return.
Well, it's very unclear because it was a shock for most people, his return. Most people believe that he wouldn't give up power easily, but that his return after 3 months was really not expected. Many people are fearful that his return might mean a declaration of war, and so this could really mean an end to the peaceful movement. And that's how many people see it. You know, it could be a way to crush this movement. Other people believe that there are rumors now that he actually might announce his resignation today. He has a meeting with the ruling party today, and that might happen, which could mean, even in a country that's extremely polarized now, you have pro-democracy protesters and pro-government protesters.
What's happening on the streets of Sana'a?
Well, we've been hearing celebratory gunshots since the morning and fireworks by pro-government people and sparks since the morning. Heavy, sometimes even machine guns and heavy artillery. There's also continued clashes since last night in different neighborhoods in the city. Heavy clashes between the 1st Brigade, which is the defective military, and government security. There were snipers last night shooting at some protesters. So people are just really extremely tense. Things are escalating into a way where people really are fearful at this point. Some people are leaving the city to go to their villages. People that have, homes in the village. And some expats are having evacuation plans. The UN staff are evacuating today.
How powerful are the forces of Major General Ali Mohsen? Because they're the ones that are directly fighting those who support President Saleh and his son Ahmed.
They are a very powerful military unit. They were engaged before, many years ago, in a very long war in the Sana'a province. General Ali Muhsin was the second man for Saleh for many years, for the 33 years. And so it's believed that they own many, many heavy weapons. They have, the money, the finances for that. And so it's really almost a balance of right now power between the government forces and the General Ali Muhsin forces. It's unclear who has the upper hand militarily. We know now that Saudi Arabia is backing Saleh, and that's the question. Pro-government security, or Saleh has the Air Force on his side, and people are afraid that if things escalate, we might see air attacks in the coming days if things don't calm down and if there's no international pressure. And I just spoke to somebody at the square, a pro-democracy activist, who told me that they're just worried of a war because they just don't want a war. Not a war by Ali Muhsin or the 1st Brigade, and not a war by Saleh. They went to the streets 7 months ago for a peaceful protest, a peaceful way to end the regime, and they're really afraid of this escalation.
There's nothing that President Saleh can do to satisfy you and the other pro-democracy activists?
Well, the immediate resignation, of course, would be a good first step, definitely.
But nothing that involves him staying in power?
No, that would be extremely difficult. As I said, after all these deaths, today, on Friday, there was supposed to be a funeral for 136 people who died just this week. After all this bloodshed, it's very difficult for the country to accept his power. And so it will just simply not be accepted.
That's the opposition activist in Yemen, Atiaf al-Wazir. Well, behind all of this, of course, is the role of Saudi Arabia, which allowed President Saleh to return to Yemen. So let's try to understand what Saudi Arabia wants to see next. The Saudi academic in London, Dr. Madawi al-Rashid, joins us. Thanks for being with us on World Update. What do you think was going on in the corridors of power in Saudi Arabia that they decided this was a good idea?
Well, obviously, I think the Saudi interest is clearly behind Ali Abdullah Saleh, and this was revealed in the chanting of the pro-democracy movement in Yemen itself that accused Saudi Arabia of actually supporting the president rather than playing a neutral role. And I remember from the squares of Sana'a, people were shouting, "Yemen is not Bahrain," and this is a clear message to Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia, after what happened in Bahrain itself, whereby the Saudis sent their troops in order to contain and suppress the pro-democracy movement, they felt empowered, and they are taking a different path in Yemen, and that is more active military intervention, backing one faction in this sort of Yemeni revolution, and providing Ali Abdullah Saleh with all the support that he needed during his injuries. And recently, just last week, King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia met with Saleh, thus casting on him this sort of legitimacy again as the president of the Yemen Republic.
Well, sure. And as a purely pragmatic, forgetting the course of democracy in the Middle East, but as a purely pragmatic decision, would you in any way credit that with being the right one, that stability really will only come if the president can be restored?
I don't think so, because I think this is for the Yemeni people to decide, and so far we haven't seen that the Yemenis were very happy with the Saudi move of backing Ali Abdullah Saleh and sending him back to Yemen, when a lot of the pro-democracy activists thought that they were closer to achieving their goals and deposing the president. But the problem in Yemen is it's much more complex than Bahrain. Yemen has, at the moment, I think, different political and military actors fighting a war amongst themselves in order to resolve it in the sort of rise of one faction against the other. So we have the president and his son on one side, and two Al-Ahmar ruling sort of elite on the other side. Plus we have the pro-democracy movement and the political parties that are actually mobilizing Yemenis